a couple videos coming to news feed with people, and it's always men saying this, so it's like really shocking. Like I'm just waiting for the male community to stop constantly complaining as if they don't have benefits in movies, as if there's not a lot of men in office, as if there aren't men running the country and the communities and the cities and these platforms. I'm so sick and tired of hearing so many men complain on YouTube. It really makes me believe that the statistics that 77% of narcissists are men. I think that is very true because y'all, every time I turn around, there's a video in my news feed of men complaining, saying that today's times is harder, and it just shocked me. Like, they're not harder than the 90s. I was around in the 90s. I was around in the 2000s. I was around. This time period is not harder. And anybody to tell you that it is, they're lying to you. They're trying to get views. They're trying to get likes. They're trying to get attention on these platforms. Okay? We're going to get into it because I can tell you countless ways how the 90s was harder, way harder than today. Okay? I'm so sick of people trying to make it seem like everybody in the 90s had it easy. No, it was very, very hard. Very, very hard. I remember so much about the 90s, y'all. I could put all these people in their place. Okay? I had to do. Okay, then bring it then. You ready for the heated argument? You could disagree, but I was there, boo. I was there and I'm here. I was there. Just because you got sicknesses in the air, which we had then. If you check the Lysol can, we had diseases in the air just like you have now. We had the flu going rampant then. We had toxic presidents then. We were only making $5 an hour, and the price and the food was still too expensive. And only thing I was able to afford was in a basement apartment and an attic. I had to rent an attic off of family members, though I was working 40 hours a week, making $5.75. So do not tell me that the 90s wasn't hard. Do not tell me that it's harder now. If I had to, if only thing I was able to afford was an attic apartment, and me and my partner was both working, it was pretty hard back then. Okay? We just wasn't complaining. It just wasn't the internet that constantly complained. It just wasn't the internet where we could get on here and complain and all of that. If you didn't grow up, if you wasn't old enough to, if you're not almost 50 years old, do not speak on the 90s. I'm sick and tired of 30-year-olds, 32-year-olds speaking on the 90s. You was a little kid. You was what, 7 years old? You didn't know half of what was going on. I'm coming for anybody that's 32, 35 and under thinking they can speak on the 90s. We don't want to hear you no more. You was a little weak kid. You do not know the main issues in the 90s. It was harder. I'm about to put everybody in their place who keep on saying that it was that generation now is harder. Y'all ready for this? We're going to go over each area. Number one, nobody was protesting and marching in the streets for the black community. Absolutely nobody. If you got fired and discriminated against, nobody spoke for you. Nobody marched for you. Why do you think Maya Angelou wrote that poem, Still I Rise? Because nobody was speaking for black women then. Nobody was speaking for black men then. There was no YouTubes where people could speak out. Nobody was willing to. There was Uncle Toms all over the place. So people was walking on eggshells. People knew that if you spoke up on the job against discrimination, you would get fired. No one would walk out with you. No one would march in front of that job with you. So that's why it was also harder for the black community. There was nothing you could do. The NAACP didn't do nothing but sit on stage and talk. I don't know why everybody think the NAACP was turning up for the black community. All they did was talk. They did not do no marches. There was no protesters and marches. That's why Bush won in the election. That's why. Because nobody was bold enough and brave enough to stand up to the system. People are standing up to the system now. Nobody were. Because everybody knew that you'd get it worse then. You'd get it worse then. There wasn't cell phones where you could think people could videotape somebody discriminating against you. There was no fat acceptance then. There was none. Somebody called you fat, you just had to deal with it. Somebody called you broke and ugly, nobody spoke for you. Nobody said that's negative energy. Nobody would stand up for you. Everybody would just be like, it's survival of the fittest back in the 90s. Period. You didn't have access to all these publishers and these grants, all these opportunities on the internet. Y'all could dismiss me with saying it's harder. Half the people that's saying it's harder are not creative. They're creatively blocked. They're sitting around just doing nothing but just doing YouTube and doing these platforms. They don't got no businesses. They ain't wrote no books. They ain't create nothing. And they sitting up and all they doing is YouTube. All they doing is doing social media and complaining about the system. I've had more opportunities, more success in this day than I ever did in the 90s because I could not reach the publishers. You had to do everything by mail. That means you had to have printer ink, computer ink. You didn't have a computer in your home unless you really had a whole lot of money. So you had to go to the library, stand in line, sign your name on a paper just to use a computer. And then you had to pay for all the printing of your manuscripts to send it to the publishers. Record labels wasn't just picking anybody, or because you danced and sang on YouTube. There wasn't all these possibilities like Justin Bieber got. Y'all could dismiss me with all this complaining. You had to know somebody for sure offline in the 90s for opportunities. There was no just going online, putting in an application and submitting and sitting back all comfortable. There was no self-publishing on Amazon. Okay, how long y'all want to go? Who want to argue with me? Let's get it. Let's get it. Because I'm really getting into this. I'm really getting into this because I'm getting sick and tired of people lying. Okay, I'm getting sick and tired of it. I remember almost everything about the 90s. Everything about it. There was no self-publishing. There's people that got best-selling books through self-publishing. You would not have been able to be a Rupi Kaur back in the 90s. It was the elites of the elites of the elites. Now it's like low-level elites, elites under elites, being successful. All these people regurgitating content, getting successful, just repeating what everybody is saying. You couldn't get rich like that in the 90s. It was originality. It was the time of you had to be original. Now you don't have to be original. You can just do the dance that everybody's dancing on TikTok and go viral and get rich. I'm just calling it what it is. So please stop complaining about this time period. If you're not taking advantage of all the opportunities, which is countless opportunities of today, then stop complaining about this present day. Stop complaining about it. Stop complaining about it. I'm keeping it real. Stop complaining about it. There was no Grubhub and food and all these ways to get a car. There was jitneys and cabs. There was no Lyft and Ubers and all these different car pickup options. There wasn't. Okay, people need to just stop this. Like, there wasn't non-profit food markets just sitting open in your neighborhood. There wasn't. Now there's a not-for-profit food market in almost every low-income community. That wasn't going on then. It was the candy store. That's all you had. You went to the candy store and you hoped that they put some fruit out for the day. Yeah. There was a lot of carpooling. There was a lot of hitching rides. Period. We used to all go in on a jitney together. That's how low we was paid. We'd all have to put $3 each on a jitney. I'm calling it what it is. I'm calling it what it is. Don't even get me started. There was no pay in to get insurance. You either got it through your job or you got welfare. That was it. There was no Obamacare. Y'all don't even get me started. You had to buy the insurance through your job, or you pay for welfare. Or it was only a dream to think about paying for insurance out of your pocket. And this is the realest, the realest. They talking on the 90s and was like 5 years old and 6 years old and speaking on the 90s. You want to know what the 90s is like? You need to talk to people that was literally over 15 in the 90s. I graduated in the 90s. I graduated from high school in the 90s. I remember the 90s very well. Very well. We had to borrow sugar and butter from people's homes. People was trading things. Go to the neighbor's house and get Kool-Aid, and go to this neighbor's house and borrow some butter, and go there and borrow some sugar. Man, y'all could dismiss me with this saying that it's harder. Y'all could dismiss me. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. I want the music to come back. Yeah, I want the music and I want the nightclubs to come back, but I don't want to go back. I done met some good people through the internet. I met 4 producers through an advertisement I put on the internet. I put on the internet. You couldn't walk up to a record label, knock on their door and be like, hey, I wrote this album. They'll be like, get out of here. If we didn't scout for you, don't knock on our door. That's how they would have been in the 90s. You had to know somebody. You had to be recommended by your teacher to that record label or publisher. You had to know somebody. To even get a real good job, you had to know somebody. Because the employment paper, what about 10 pages? Everybody know UPMC. UPMC was dominating the employment section back then. That was it. There was no Indeed, career builder, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of jobs. There wasn't. There was the city paper, which was about 3 sheets of employment in the city paper. And then in the UPMC employment section, there was a couple papers. That was it. That was it. Period. That was it. That was it. If you didn't see a job in those 4 pieces of paper in the UPMC paper, you didn't get no job. You had to make friends. Everybody sitting around nowadays talking about me, myself, and I. No, you wasn't making it with me, myself, and I back then. No. You couldn't just whip up a product and put it on Etsy and sell it. There was no Etsy. You had to set up a stand outside your house and hope that somebody will stop and buy your stuff. You had to wait weeks and weeks to hear from the patent office. And then you find out that somebody somehow copied your product. The big companies, they was in cahoots with the patent office back then. So you send your stuff to the patent office by the mail, through the mail, and by the time they get to you, another company then came out with your product. That's how it went back then. You take your product on the street, on the stands, somebody take it. And there was no way to prove that they took it because they bought the product and moved on. You see what Madam C.J. Walker was able to do? I mean, that was going on even then. The internet, you can catch people. You can find out if they viewed your video, if they viewed your Amazon product, or you can contact the publisher to see if they bought your book, so you could track whether they copied you or whatever. You couldn't do that in the 90s. Somebody walked up and bought your product and they copied your product. You just had to fight it out in court with no evidence. Like, you had no evidence to prove that they actually copied you. So you just had to hope the judge would rule in your favor. Y'all, this is... Don't even get me started. If it was so easier then, how come most of the people had 5 kids in 2-bedroom apartments? 5 kids. 5 kids in 2-bedroom apartments. Three kids per room. There was no your own room. There was no your own room back then. They were using attics. They were using attics as bedrooms. If you was able to rent a house with an attic, you felt like you was blessed because you could turn that into a bedroom for two more kids of yours. My mother worked 60 hours a week. My dad worked part-time. We all was working, and still, we was only able to afford a 3-bedroom home with 6 people. Tell me how that was better. Tell me. Me and my sisters were both working summer jobs, 40 hours a week. Dad was working part-time. Mom was working 50, 60 hours. You know why we could not afford a big home? Because they were not even paying $7 an hour. They like even the rent that y'all paying now is very close to the rent we were still paying then. Back in 1997, our rent was $600 for a basement 1.5 bedroom apartment. And that did not include electricity and water. Me and my partner was paying that, and we were both working. At one point we had to eat buttered noodles for a week. We still had to go to the food bank twice a month. And that was in 1997. You tell me how that's better. You tell me how that's better. I had a degree, an associate's degree. Okay, graduated with 3.2 or a B plus. Only making $6 an hour. They weren't even trying to pay me the $11 that I should have been making at that time. They were only paying me. They were the same thing they doing now they was doing then. They was paying you $3 less, $5 less than just like they doing now. They using the same tricks, y'all. So I knew we had to get two 16-year-old dudes in 1997 were homeless on the street. We had to let them stay out of our home sometime till they was able to find a job. They was living in a shelter. 2 16-year-old boys in perfect health could not find a job. I had to go to a family member and ask them, can they go to their boss and see if they could hire these 2 young dudes so they can stop living on the street. And they got hired and they got their own place. But they got a 1 bedroom and shared it. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, it's no joke. Why everybody think that we was, just because we look good and we was all high energy, don't mean we was living better. We look better because we were still on the old school diet. But we was under the same stress. There was times we had to walk from city to city just to get to work. Couldn't afford bus fare. My mother was walking 6-7 miles to work sometime, y'all. We looked so good because we was walking everywhere. We couldn't afford bus fare all the time. We couldn't wait for the weekend to come so we can get a weekender bus pass. We could not wait for Saturday to come so we all can put 50 cents on the weekender. And we can finally go somewhere without having to use our feet everywhere. I remember, no lie, we had a school day off and we didn't have nothing to do. We didn't have no money. My oldest brother was like, we're going to walk to the point. That's what he said. We were like, that's like, that's like miles away. He said, so what? We'll just all have fun on the way there. We literally walked from one part of the city to another. I swear, y'all, it might have been 7 miles. We walked like 7 miles just to hang out at a water fountain, just to put our feet in the fountain, just to feel like we having some fun. When we went to the movies, it was like amazing because wow, we were able to afford once a year, we can get on the bus, we can get one popcorn bowl and share the popcorn, and we can see a movie at the movie theater. You know what? A movie theater's not a big deal to people now because there's cable. You got all these channels. All these channels. We had what? 5 channels back then? About 5 channels. That's it. And you might have got 7 channels if you had basic cable. And most people were stealing cable. Most people could not afford cable, not even basic cable. They were stealing it. People were stealing electricity. People were stealing phone lines, party lines, hacking other people's phone line to have their phone on, stealing cable. So I don't know where this came from. Like everybody had cable. Yeah, half the people were stealing it. You just didn't tell. Wasn't nobody snitching. We didn't have a bunch of Karens then. We didn't have a bunch of Karens. I don't mean to, crap on the name Karen, but we didn't have a lot of Karens and people calling the law on every little minor illegal activity people were doing. So that's why at a distance, this generation today think that we were doing pretty good. There was a lot of cheating the system going on. Hardcore cheating. Copying food stamps, fake welfare cards, you name it. Okay? Running lottery. Have y'all ever seen the movie Harlem? That was going on, running numbers. And I was a number runner. I'll keep it real. I was running numbers for some people. I was a teenager, young teen, running numbers for some family members. It was illegal, but they had me doing it. They shouldn't have had me doing it. But the point what I'm making is that people weren't snitching back then. Okay, people were not snitching. It was big drug dealing days, dear. People was looking like they was living large because you was able to sell drugs real easy and get away with it. Wasn't nobody snitching. Back then, we knew snitches get ditches. That's what we used to say. If you snitch, you end up in a ditch. So anybody could do drugs and everything all around you, and everybody pretended not to see. So that's why it was easy. It was easier only because we were able to do a lot of crime and get away with it. But nowadays, no. Everybody on their cell phones. You're constantly monitored. The whole world is acting like they the police. People acting like their cell phones is literally the police walking down the street with them. But the fact that we had to resort to so much criminal activity lets you know that we didn't have it easy then. Let you know that we didn't have it easy. Why did we have to do so much crime then if we had it easy? If welfare was really taking care of people, why did people have to hide crack under their bed pillows and sell crack and guns out of their crib just to help their mama pay the rent in the project in the government home? They were selling drugs while living in government homes because the government wasn't even giving them enough to pay their bills. So I don't know why everybody trying to say that it was easier. We were all under the same house. Grandma, auntie. At one point, everybody was living with my grandma. Y'all, it was crazy. Me, my 5 siblings, my auntie, my Uncle Raymond, my grandmother, my mother. There was at least 8 kids and 3 adults in one 3-bedroom home. Yeah. There was people sleeping on the living room floor. There was people sleeping on the couches. There was people sleeping. The living room was another room, another bedroom. I go to people's houses today and it blows my mind when I see all this space, people to walk around. I'm like, wow. Growing up, you go in the living room, there was 2 people sleeping in here. So, and I know people saying, well, they was uneducated. No, my grandmother got a degree. My dad had a degree. My mother had a degree. My dad had a publishing degree. My mother was a stenographer, a courtroom reporter, stenographer degree. Everybody had degrees, but yet everybody was sleeping on couches and floors and basements and attics. Make it make sense, y'all. So when y'all said it was easier in the 90s, it was not. Why do you think everybody was running on candy? We couldn't even afford fruit the way y'all could afford it. There was hardly any fruit stores near us. There was no farmer's market stand there for us to just go and get an apple and sell for 10 cents. There was no people just setting up stands and just passing out food. You had to go to the food bank when the food bank was open, and that was it. There was no mass food giveaways like they had in 2020, where they were just dropping off food at your door. I had boxes of food dropped off at this door by somebody I don't even know, some random person in this community. Just dropped off boxes of food here. I had a whole Thanksgiving dinner dropped off at my door here and at my last place. That never happened in the 90s at my mom's crib. Never. Y'all, I'm telling you the truth. So I'm just saying, y'all better stop. Y'all better stop. No. Have you ever seen that movie Midnight in Paris? Okay. In the movie Midnight in Paris, there's a guy. He talks about how people always think another time period was better than theirs. They always think that. Until they be in that of the past for a while, then they say, no. Everything looks like it was better when you're only seeing what society wants you to see in movies and videos. They're making you think it was better. I mean, didn't anybody ever see the movie Sprung? Anybody ever notice in that movie people was living with each other? In that movie Sprung, dude was living with dude. The one girl was living with another girl. Everybody had jobs but was living with people. Like, I'm just saying, y'all. They was borrowing each other's clothes. That movie is a prime example of showing little signs of how it was not easy in the 90s. I love that movie Sprung, because people were looking for people who had money because it was hard, really hard times. People were trying to marry into money because it was hard. Like in that movie, somebody said $80,000 in your bank account. $80,000 in your bank account was a big deal back then because people were struggling so bad they would have been just happy to have that. They would have been happy just to have that. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, it was not easy. No. I know people back in the 90s, they were walking the streets looking for somebody to rob. You couldn't even turn your head for a few seconds away from your purse. You would get, it's called got. You would get got. Pickpocketing was at an all-time high. I know somebody that's living rich right now because that's what they did in the 90s. They were just pickpocketing people all over the place. And now they sitting there with their nice, expensive home and expensive cars. But they spent the 90s and the early 2000s pickpocketing people. I got pickpocketed a couple times on the subway back in the 90s. Somebody bumped into me and took my wallet more than once. It's no joke. Now you got somebody that's looking, everybody watching each other. People got cell phones. It's hard to pickpocket anybody now. Somebody catch it on tape. Back then, if you got robbed and pickpocketed, unless they caught the person, they might most likely get away with it. It was not that easy. No. A lot of people were surviving off sugar. People were so poor in the 90s, everybody was just sugared up. Like, we can't afford no fresh fruit. We can't afford this. We might as well just eat candy and juicy juices all day. People were eating the bare minimum amount of food that they needed to survive because they knew that it was hard to pay bills then. People, that it's not harder now because we got so many people that's over 200 pounds. How is so many people over 200 pounds right now if times are much harder? How are they affording all that food? How? How are people? Have you seen the lines at McDonald's? The lines are long. Back in the 90s, it wasn't long. Lines wasn't long at Mickey D's. Why? Because couldn't nobody afford it. Couldn't nobody. They was getting junior bacon cheeseburgers. If you got a junior bacon cheeseburger and some fries, you felt blessed. If you was able to get a junior bacon cheeseburger and a small fries at McDonald's, you felt like you had money to spend. Nowadays, people are going home with big bacon classics and 2 orders of fries. I'm like, how are y'all affording that? Because there's more opportunities today. There's more ways to make money. So many ways. They have legalized prostitution in some places that was not legal back in the 90s. It was a lot. It was a censorship too. They started censoring a lot of things. So you couldn't cuss your way to the top. Now these people are cussing and saying all kind of stuff on the platforms and they getting rich. Back then you couldn't say the things that you're saying now, or there would be controversy. The censorship campaigns would try to put you out of business. They came for NWA. When NWA broke the rules of censorship, they was attacked. That's why they started losing money. Nowadays, you could be NWA all day. You could talk about condoms, rubbers, everything till the cows come home and get rich, and ain't nobody coming for you. You could twerk it. You could do all kind of stuff with your butt crack out and get all kind of views of money and $100 up on your lives and everything just by having a booty. That wasn't enough back in the 90s. That wasn't enough. Yo, I'm just saying, y'all. You have to have the face too. Nowadays, as long as you got a booty, you might hit the jackpot and get you a rich dude. Back in the day, you had to have a body, the face, the skin, everything. It was like, the expectations was higher in order to get you a quality dude that had money. If you was a woman and you were trying to get you a king or an emperor, you had to have it going on to the 10th degree. You could not be average. Now I'm seeing average people living average, women that don't take care of themselves, that don't even work out, and they sitting up there jumping in Lamborghinis and Porsches of these dudes and cruising, and they got these dudes spending all kind of money on them at the mall. Me and my daughter saw it the other day. I got out her car. I said, look, she's wearing faded clothes. She looking real tacky, and she just jumped out of this fancy Lamborghini car with her boyfriend, and he's representing her, and she's real messy and unkept. And look at that. I told my daughter, I said, see, you ain't gotta be working with much today to make it. You don't. Mediocre gets it. Mediocre and average, you can make it average. I don't know where that came from. You gotta be more than average today to make it. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just have to follow the system rules. But you don't have to. There's plenty of people that back in the day would be considered average, and they have viral YouTube channels. So, I'm just calling it what it is, y'all. Like I said, anybody want to come for me, we can go at it. If you say you like it's harder now, how is it harder? If things get hard out here, you can literally run to the internet and make money. You can sit there and write a book in one day and have it published in one day. Wow. I used to dream of being able to do that back in the early 90s. Like, it would be nice to get my poems published. Who do I go to? Don't nobody know anybody. If you wanted to find the publisher, you had to buy the book with the publishers, and it was $40. The book that they sold, it's called the Writer's Digest or something. Writer's Almanac. Something of that nature. And it has all the publishers in it. It was like $40. And then you had to buy it every year because it was updated. So you see? Somebody said, somebody calling, who you calling father? So you're racist. How somebody saying, you're actually trying to say this beautiful face is a man? Are you really saying I'm a man? As pretty as I am. Really? Really? Look, somebody really racist in here. Really? Really? Are you really trying to say that I'm a man? Are you really trying to say that I'm a man? Wow. You really you got a lot of hate for black women. You got a lot of hate. That's deep. That is deep. With these eyes, with my eyes like Jasmine, I have eyes like Jasmine from Aladdin. Really? How many men you know got eyes like Jasmine out here? Not many. Child. The hate and racism towards the black women is so toxic. See, in the old days, you couldn't just walk up to any old random black woman and call her a man. You would get knocked clear out. You would get sued and all that. See? Look how people can be hateful, racist, mean, everything up on YouTube. And just go ahead and sit down. Wow, you mad because you can't get a woman like me? You jealous? You jealous? I'm telling you, man. Woo, child. Woo! I tell you, it just cracked me up. It's the hate, the jealousy. It's real cowardly now. You could not say nothing mean to people back in the 90s. You would get knocked out. Somebody would just punch you right in your face, like, pow. Instantly. There was no battles in the comments. There was no let's have it out in the live video or YouTube or text message. No, I'm coming for you. I'm going to beat you up when I see you. That's how it was in the 90s. I'm going to beat you up when I see you. We're living in a world where there's a lot of coward people, a lot of cowards, but complaining that it's harder. You know how many people I done said on this channel, if you got a problem with me, come through, yet they ain't came through yet. I done said, if you don't like me, if you hate my genetics, email me, come through, and we can get a fair run on right outside. Because I am a 90s baby. We can fight. But this generation think they're so tough. They're not tough. They stay saying, oh, the 90s were tough. Yeah, we were tough. Because we damn sure was willing to fight if we had a problem with somebody. Now it's a bunch of cowards. I'll attack you online. I'll attack you in Messenger. I'll come for you on Facebook. Oh, shut up, you coward mother effers. You got it made. You can just post something negative with somebody online and go sit peacefully and hide away. Try that stuff in the 90s. You'd have to say it to somebody's face or to somebody behind their back, and then they would come for you and beat you up. No, I'm telling you. People be real irritated too when they can't call a black woman ugly. Back then, didn't nobody care about calling somebody ugly. Really, they didn't. Nowadays, people be so worried about what each other look like, how fat, skinny somebody is, how long somebody's hair is, versus that. Y'all a mess. And then wonder why it's only hard because you're toxic. The generation today, it's only hard because y'all toxic. Y'all will not stop all this gossiping, fighting, competing, bragging, trolling, attention seeking on YouTube, twerking all the time, attacking. I'm telling you. So I had a little discussion with y'all. I had some time though, but I gotta go, y'all. I'll see y'all later. I'll do another part 2 of this video. You don't have to agree, but if you don't agree, come see me. We gonna talk, cause I double dog dare you to prove me wrong. I got to be in both time periods, so I know. I'm so thankful that I can get food dropped off at my door. I'm so thankful that I could just go online and make some money. I was never able to make money like this, like I made on YouTube. Never. Like, I make my own money. I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, okay. Tony Robinson wasn't even doing that good. He blew up because of YouTube. Tony Robinson was not making that much money back in the 90s. Go check out his little tapes. He wasn't. He was from the 90s too. He took advantage of this generation where he can make more money. The opportunities are there. Just stop complaining and start some online businesses and make some money. And that's just the truth. See y'all later. Bye, everybody.